BJ Peters here from StampinBJ.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that loves to share things with you. And today is no different. I want to share some tips with the stamping blends, some things that maybe, a new technique that you've maybe not tried yet, and we're going to use it with the Hedgehugs stamp set. So let's get started. Here's a close-up of that super cute Hedgehugs card. Really what I want to show you, well, beyond the cuteness of this card, is a little bit about using the Stampin' blends with a little flicking technique. Plus, notice that I didn't use the Memento ink and how to be successful with that. Here is that adorable Hedgehug stamp set from the Occasions catalog, and it is really cute. I love this one, sending hedgehugs your way. You know what? Hedgehogs are just cute and adorable to begin with, so I didn't need to add much to this card. I have my Whisper White stitch shape oval here, and I'm actually going to stamp in Early Espresso. Just going to ink up my little hedgehog here. I'm actually making sure too that I didn't get any extra ink on his belly so that I don't get that on my stamped image. We'll add in the other little hedgehog right there. Perfect. Oh, they're so adorable. For this card, I'm going to use several Stampin' blends. I've got the Ivory Stampin' blend, I've got the Color Lifter, I've got the Light Smoky Slate, and then I've got the Cherry Cobbler Light and Dark. And what I want to share with you is really, normally we tell you that you have to stamp your outline in Memento Black so that it doesn't bleed through. But if you're very careful around the edge, you can actually add some color with your Stampin' blends and get that little bit of color in there that really makes these hedgehogs pop up. So notice that I'm not getting any color bleeding into this. I'm just kind of going around the edges, kind of being very careful. And then I'm going to come back and do the kind of color in the bigger area. And with the Stampin' blends, you know, they thoroughly saturate the paper so that you get that, you don't get those marker lines. Now let me show you a little bit. With the Color Lifter, I'm actually going to kind of create a little bit of a lighter spot here in the belly and maybe a little bit on the underside here. And then if I want to do a little bit of shading, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the fine tip as defined by the narrow end. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to do a little flicking motion right along that edge. So I'm starting hard and then kind of lifting up. And I'm going to add a little bit more on the legs here. That's how I'm going to get that shading. So again, flicking in along the edge, get that arm a little bit darker. So I'm using the same color, I'm just adding a layer of color. And remember, it's easy to add a layer of color versus trying to take color off. It's easy to start light and then add more as you go. And now all I have to do is, if I need to, blend that in. So you can kind of see it. It kind of blends itself in, but if I felt like I wanted to blend a little bit more, just using that circular motion will help blend that just a little bit more. And just kind of a light touch. I don't need to press hard, just a really light touch. There we go. I think they're adorable. Now let's look at, I added on here, you can kind of see a little bit of gray underneath. And I did the same thing. I didn't want a real dark line for them to kind of sit on, but I just came in and I'm using that flicking motion and adding just a little bit of the smoky slate, the light color, right underneath to kind of give that little bit of shadow. Well, they're not exactly groundhogs, but felt like they needed a little bit of a shadow. And you can kind of see right now that it, you know, looks a little bit choppy. But if you kind of come back in with your Color Lifter, it's actually going to blend that just a little bit. And I'm going to use that circular motion again. And I'm not necessarily lifting the color, but I'm using the alcohol in the Color Lifter to kind of blend those colors out a little bit. And that's what the alcohol does. So you can kind of see that it just softened those flick lines. And using those flick lines makes it easier to control so that I didn't get into the other colors and then get a muddy image by having the colors mixed there. So let's finish this card off. I'm going to add this to a scalloped oval from the Layering Ovals. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside. Whoops. One more thing. I'm going to use my fine tip here. Remember, the small line is the fine tip. And I'm going to color in the little flower here. So cute. And then I've got my Real Red card base, and I did 4 1/4 by 11, and I scored and folded it here at 5 1/2. So for the card base layer here, I did something different with the striped embossing folder. Here I just did it one way, but here I ran it through both ways. So now I get that nice fun little checkered pattern. It's pretty bendy still, and a lot of card fibers are broken. So the best thing then is to make sure that you're putting your adhesive strategically on the base of your card, because if you try and put it on your card, on the card base layer, the one that I embossed, parts of the card that the paper are going to kind of shred and come apart. I love that little look. Another way to use that embossing folder. All right, let's get our Hedgehugs on here. Adding a little bit of adhesive since it's got a little bit of a rough background there. There we go. For the greening, I stamped it in basic black on the Real Red cardstock, and I'm coming in with the 1 3/8 inch scallop circle punch, which is new in the Occasions catalog, because it really complements the scallop edge behind the Hedgehugs I already have. Then I'm just going to pop that up on a 1 1/2 inch basic black circle again to complement what I already have. I'm going to pop that up with some dimensionals. I have a little greeting here that I stamped on a scrap of crumb cake. The happy birthday comes from the Bird Banter stamp set. Perfect. All right, one fun other little accent. I must have loved all of the enamel shapes that are in the Real Red color, so I decided to make my own. So this is the metallic shapes, and I'm taking the dark Stampin' Blend, and I'm actually just coloring that enamel shape in right on the plastic, and then I can pick that up because it's going to be dry immediately, and that's the joy of our alcohol markers. And I'm just going to put it right up there. So cute. Perfect. Love it. So think about the alcohol markers. What you're going to love about them, again, is the ability to have a shaded image with very little trouble, very little. It makes me feel like an artist when I'm really not. Think about that flicking technique and adding just that little bit of color around the edge, and don't be afraid to kind of be careful and use it without the Memento ink. Although if you're going to use it a lot in color and images, you are going to want that Memento ink pad. Thanks for stopping by today, and remember that you can order these products in my online store at stampinbj.com, and remember to create and feel great.